Hi, everyone. Thank y'all for joining us for our Beef Brunch News Update on Tuesday, February 20th. I am going to go ahead and let Brittany kick it off for us this week.
Thanks, Ashley. So I actually just got back this week. I think most of us are back in the office from our state livestock show. That I thought was a great success. There was a lot of participation. I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but it seemed like the numbers were up, and we saw some really good good animals and some good cattle like come through the barns there. In terms of what's going on back home and in our area, I just kind of taking a look at the drought monitor. Of course, we did get some rain and some weather that's kind of brought us now. I know kind of in the central part of the state, we're actually down to D0, which is abnormally dry, and then some other parts of the Southwest and then up through kind of Southeast Louisiana, they're actually completely out of the drought monitor. So it's good to see that those conditions have gotten a little bit better as far as that goes. We're seeing some good growth right now as far as your ryegrass and grasses and winter grasses and whatnot. So things seem to be, looking pretty good. I know Vince and I spoke earlier as well, and we talked a little bit about, the sale barns like still having really good prices. And if anybody has seen Dr. Kurt Guidry give his cattle market outlook, something that he said the last few times I've heard him talk is he just says, his job's pretty easy because the cattle market outlook's, looking pretty good. Those prices are still up there. So for those that are looking to sell and whatnot, they should be getting some pretty good, good stuff back from the sale barns there. Of course, the inventory numbers are still
Brittany,
still lower.
We lost your audio.
Cool.
There it goes. You're back now.
Okay, I don't know where.
You'd mentioned Dr. Guidry said that prices were good and his job was easy. His outlook was good. Hopefully it wasn't just by me because my internet just popped up and said poor network quality. But if you don't mind repeating the last couple of sentences for us, just in case.
Oh yeah. And so just said with that, of course, those prices are still high. Those markets are still looking good for those producers that are looking to sell. And then also, of course, the cattle inventory numbers are still fairly low. We are seeing some, people starting to, breed now for that fall calving season. And we do have several opportunities coming up, which I'm sure Ashley will mention later, to get your bulls tested and whatnot to make sure that they are good to go for your upcoming breeding seasons. We also have been conducting several pesticide recertification meetings across the state. I know Vince and I have one coming up this Wednesday over in Allen Parish, and then we have one more left to do next month in Opelousas and St. Landry Parish. So for those of you that are needing that recertification to get that done, just make sure you're reaching out to your local extension offices and seeing, when those classes are offered. You have until March 31st to get that done for this year. So yeah, so I don't have a whole lot. I do have one more. Sorry. We actually have scheduled a Master Cattleman class for the Central Region. That will be the first one I'm doing since I've been in this role. We currently have registration available for that. And so I know Ashley, I'm sure we'll link that in the description down below once we get that out there. So I think that's pretty much it for me. Vince, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Brittany. And yeah, it's good to be back in the office this week. As Brittany mentioned, most of us were down in Gonzales for the State Livestock Show, and weather was nice, and we had a bit of a rain event on Friday, as we were further south of I-10. But as we moved into the central part of the state, we actually, for the most part, missed any rain coming across with this front that gave us really cold temperatures on Saturday morning and high winds. We actually had a wind advisory and heavy frost this morning. So hopefully that's the last one, but we are still in February. So there's a lot of ryegrass and other winter pastures being top dressed at this time. Last week we reached just, consistently in the 70s for the most part, and 50s at night, which is very conducive for, those winter pastures to accelerate some growth as we move into the spring months, which is critical as those fall calves are really requiring some milk intake right now, and those cows are, to maintain that body condition scores. Unfortunately, there's some indications that we may see somewhat of another dry year, to some degree, is some of the forecasts that I've seen. Hopefully that's not to come into intuition. I've had several phone calls here lately about some cattle that are doing not so good on what to do with them. So one visit I had with a cattle person on the weekend, part with those cattle. I said, the market's lucrative right now. They wanted to get out of two bulls that they were running to get into a higher quality bull to get those higher quality calves on the ground, providing the market stays in the situation it's in, and it's a time to do that. If you're going to replace bulls, it's a time to assess what you have, call down on some numbers possibly, keeping it straight and narrow with your stocking rate, and the concern was that they were overstocked, and if you feel like you're overstocked, you probably are. So cut those numbers down. You're moderate to younger age cattle. If you got some older cattle that are not so good doing, take them out of the herd. Take advantage of that dollar plus market on cull cows. And I had an opportunity to sit at the Kinderborn a little bit on last Monday, and man, the bulls, bulls that had flesh and high yielding bulls, with $1.25 to $1.35. You can't hardly go wrong with that kind of price if you got a herd sire that's not performing. That was bulls that were in good flesh, not crippled up. They were sound and solid and could get on the truck. So take advantage of those lucrative markets. Take advantage of the weather we got coming. They're forecasting 10 days of sunshine and moderately warm temperatures, reaching the upper 70s, I think, in the next 2 or 3 days. We'll see some accelerated growth on ryegrass, and those who have wheat and other forages available to cattle for their winter pastures. Had one producer talk to me yesterday about getting started spraying once this frost gets behind us, and it's time to start doing those things. Another call this morning on taking some approach on getting an early jump on some of those hay fields. It's time to do that. Get your soil tested. Make those decisions on herbicides, problems that you've had in the past, and we'll always say that through our pesticide recertification meeting. Use that as a decision-making tool on what worked for you in the past. Buy the right amounts. Don't overbuy it, because as we go into in between seasons, we get some change in weather and colder temperatures and warmer temperatures, and we may lose some efficacy of some of those products, especially in the liquid formulation. So be wise about your purchasing decisions. It's time to get out and service your equipment. Because before long I had called this morning talking about wrapping some ryegrass. They were fertilizing some overgrowth ryegrass that they were going to try to get wrapped as soon as they can. So it's time to start thinking spring and summer. Service the equipment and sharpen the blades and make sure everything's functioning while we still held up of getting in the field. So get those bush hogs ready to top some pastures, and consider getting that that early spring growth out of your warm season grasses, because that's the most valuable part of your forages is early spring and early summer, and getting those hay fields in order as early as possible. Because Lord knows we dealt with a bad situation, and like Lee always says, we the devil's advocate, I guess, but we definitely know that we got to prepare for the worst, because we saw the worst last year, and hopefully we don't experience that again in 24. So it's kind of where we're at. Well, there's we're in between calving seasons for the most part right now. Early spring calves or calves are hitting the ground. Your fall calves are done for the most part. Like we talked about last time, have that calving box accessible. Check pastures morning and afternoon, midday if you can. It's almost anything going to the barn right now is bringing $1,000. So I had a situation on my farm 2 weeks ago, and was calving out a set of heifers, and we lost one. And the next day, one went into labor. I called a local vet, and he came and we got it pulled out, and everything is doing well. And while I was down at the state show, I had another one had a calf. And I told him, I said, I just can't justify losing $1,000 bill, not paying attention to what's going on around me. So make sure if you have the time and the time's given to you, or somebody can watch for you, make sure that you take care of your business, because they're much too valuable right now. The market's too high to lose any of them. So again, as talking to some of the folks while we were down at the state show, that area that was so critically dry south of I-10, they've gotten some ample rainfall. They're more optimistic than they were 6 months ago, when most of the marsh areas south of I-10 were dry and they had to move cattle around to get decent grazing. But they've reached their rainfall that has kind of the moisture has met for the most part. So hopefully things are looking up in that hard drought-stricken area, and we can move forward with a better 24 than we had in 23.
Crossing my fingers. I really hope so.
No doubt.
I'm going to pass it over to Tripp for the Northeast. I will say there was too much frost and ice on my windshield this morning in Farmerville. I'm ready for these warmer temperatures that I think we're going to see throughout the state. But Tripp, I'm sure you're going to touch on that just a little bit.
You bet. Before I really dive into my update, I kind of want to piggyback on something Vince was talking about. Now is the time you want to be capitalizing on the price for these cull animals. We don't know what kind of spring, what kind of summer we're going to have, but if you have some of these animals that have been just hanging around that are kind of your borderline animals that you can make a case for why to keep, make a case for why to cull, it's a pretty good time to really harshly scrutinize those, go and mouth them, go and evaluate them. Did they bring a calf back to you this year? If not, now's a good time to go in and let them go while they still have some value to them and before they become a liability if we have another challenging year. Vince kind of got me fired up because we are moving into a little bit of a transitional period, hopefully. And coming into the springtime is my favorite time on a ranch and operation. It's a big part of why I'm in animal agriculture. The grass growth starts accelerating. The cows are looking good. Even if you don't know what you're doing, a lot of times you can look like you know what you're doing whenever you got enough grass growth. So it's a pretty great time to be in our industry. But one thing that I've seen in my travels, and I've been all over the place in the last week or two, our spring forage growth is critical to most producers in Northeast Louisiana, and we can grow a lot of grass. But right now, I've seen several producers overgrazing, and whenever you overgraze severely, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. And overgrazing in the middle of February can have big implications in March, April, May, and even into June coming through. So we want to be able to capitalize all that we can on our spring forages because you've already spent the money. You've already got out there and took care of the ground, broke it up. You've already planted your crop. You've already fertilized or sprayed potentially. You've already got a lot tied up into it. So one bad management decision can negate a lot of the effort and money that you've already put into this crop. And we need to think of it as a crop also, and not just as a grass that grows. And even our guys, we got some guys grazing volunteer grass. That needs to be treated as a crop as well. But overgrazing that grass is going to take longer to rebound. So we say take half, leave half. You need to be leaving at least 2 to 4 inches. I'm going to be more on the conservative side because whenever you leave 3 to 4 inches of stubble out there, you're not shutting down any of your root growth because what you don't see is what's happening below ground. Whenever you leave enough, the root biomass continues to grow. It continues to keep your soil chemistry and your soil biology going. That plant is going to rebound a lot faster, and that's going to pay dividends all throughout the grazing season. So make management decisions that allow you to do that. You might need to have a sacrificial paddock where you can put animals. That way they're given that grass time to grow. If your grass is not keeping up with your cattle, if your cattle are outpacing your grass, then you might not need to view it as a forage base and might need to view it as a supplemental nutrition avenue where you're putting your cows out there for 3 to 4 hours a day and letting them fill up and then pulling them off. Yeah, that is added management and time expense, but it'll pay dividends and help you out a lot in the long run. Agriculturally, there's not a lot new going on in the region. We're still calving. Things are very similar to the last time we had one of these updates. But like I said, I really think we're about to start turning the corner. You're about to see a lot of fertilizer start going out in the next few weeks if the weather's conducive. talking a lot about spring coming. Ashley mentioned the frost on the windshield this morning. It was it looked a little bit like the last few punches of wintertime this morning, but I really think we got good days ahead of us. Lee, I'm gonna go on and pass it off to you, my friend.
Thank you, Trip. Great reports as always from Vince and Brittany and Trip and everything. And so I'll jump right into what I'm seeing, not only in Northwest Louisiana, but also in the markets. Ditto everything what they said as far as the beautiful weather. Beautiful is a word for it, folks. We've had an extended period of rainfall, adequate rainfall. We were able to fill many ponds and stock tanks, creeks, and other areas that run water, and we were able to gain back some of that water we had lost through that terrible drought that we went through. And as Brittany alluded to on the drought monitor, most of Northwest Louisiana has managed to make its way mostly out of drought status as far as that goes. In fact, it's been pretty wet in our corner of the state for sure. Rainfall event after rainfall event. But looking forward, the 7-10 day forecast in our corner of the world is one of the best ones I've seen in quite a long time. Highs in the 70s, maybe all the way up to 80, lows in the 50s, and it's true. I don't know who said it, but it's winter forage growing weather whenever you're touching down into the 50s at night and 70s to 80 during the day, and with their added hours of sun or minutes of sunshine, what's quickly going to be turning into an added hour of sunshine. So things are looking really good, and it couldn't come quick enough, folks. Hay supplies are desperately short. Still a lot of people feeding a lot of hay. A lot of producers that I talk to day in, day out are just holding their breath. And if the weather forecast was looking a little different right now, it could be a much different story right now. But everybody is cautiously optimistic, especially those that have a good volunteer ryegrass base that may have some clover, especially some volunteer clover out there in those fields. And it's coming up, they're kind of sitting pretty in they know that the worst is behind them as far as their hay use. Others that don't have those volunteer or planted winter forages, they're still in for quite a bit of feeding left, but the warm temperatures are helping quite a bit. Jump right into the markets, and they are red hot, folks, red hot once again. It's truly a unique time. I'll jump right in and give you all the market report for this last 2 weeks, and along with some explanations. So the averages of the prices the last 2 weeks on 5 to 600 pound steers, the prices average from $2.05 per pound to $2.97 per pound. 5 to 6 weight heifers, $1.71 to $2.59 per pound. Cull cows, 76 cents a pound, all the way to $1.17 per pound. Cull bulls, $1.02 to $1.35. Average of the highs on bred cows was $2,000. Folks, that's on bred cows now. That's not pairs, bred cow. And on the pair side of things, the average of the high we don't have an average low price on pairs this week. The data wasn't there to support that, but the average high price on pairs was $2,164.29. Now to the ever important change from last report. On 5 to 6 weight steers, the price showed a 2.65% increase. This is where the wheels fall off, folks, and I'm going to go on and report it and let you be and I'll provide my explanation and let you be the judge. On 5 to 6 weight heifers, showed a 2.49% decrease. Cull cows a 10.1% decrease, and cull bulls a 1.7% increase. Folks, I don't necessarily believe the data on those heifers, and I don't necessarily believe it on the cull cows for sure. I've repeated time and time again on these market reports that we give. These are self-reported data, and this is data that the sale barns are reporting with little to no influence on quality, folks. They're not grading these cattle like USDA would in our surrounding states. So I think this just exposes the fact that the quality of the run throughout the 2 weeks can greatly affect what this market report shows. So you take it with a grain of salt. I'm sure, if you're talking about heifer prices decreasing by 2.49%, most folks would disagree with that. And what that may be a product of just simply is the quality of cattle that was coming through, or maybe the numbers. A lot of times I don't report numbers on some of this stuff because of that, because of the poor data available. So with that, I'm going to say that my confidence in this data is low to maybe medium. But I can tell you, folks, that this market is red hot. There's a couple of things that I do want to point out, though, related to this. So Louisiana is a cow-calf state. We know that. We talk about that quite a bit. But sometimes lost in the mix are the stocker operators that operate throughout the state, and there are quite a few that do. Although we do primarily raise cows with the goal of producing those calves, we do have a few people that are either buying or grazing their own cattle on winter forages like wheat or ryegrass or so on and so forth, adding weight on those cattle and reselling them. We definitely needed these high prices for the bulk of Louisiana's producers, the cow-calf producers, by far. We've suffered and struggled in the red for so long. Or even been close to break even, but not quite there, or struggling to break even for so many years now in the cow-calf sector of the industry, that it's time for us to gather some profit right now, even though it could be argued that the profit per head or per calf is not as high as what it has been at other historic market highs, but I digress. Where we tend to lose things, folks, is in the weeds, is those stocker operators, folks. Somebody's going to wind up getting left holding the bag on these high price cattle. Especially on these calves and these yearlings. I talked to a producer last week. This is what spurred this line of thinking on. This gentleman, one of his operates quite a sizable operation, but one of his main lines is he buys several loads of steer cattle, 5 to 6 to sometimes a little heavier than 6, sometimes upward of 7 weight steers. About this time of the year, grazes them, turns around and markets them midsummer. It's got a lot of volunteer winter forages that come up and so on and so forth. Anyway, pretty good business plan during normal years. This gentleman told me that for the couple of loads, 2 or 3 loads of cattle that he buys, he anticipated that his total cost of purchasing the cattle, interest expense, along with expenses needed to advance the cattle, a little bit of feed to get them straightened out and get them on grass, so on and so forth, a few meds. Anyway, the cost for those 3 loads of cattle was going to be about $415,000 is what he was anticipating. As far as his operation goes, he estimated, and he's a pretty good financial guy, he estimated that after all his costs were taken out and profits were accounted for, he would make about $20,000 net on that $420,000 investment. Folks, that's not enough sugar for the dime. And I'm no risk analyst, but I can tell you that tying up over $400,000 on a set of cattle to turn around and make $20,000, it don't pencil out, folks. So we talked about some alternatives. So look, I'm not trying to play a small violin for anybody. It's time for the cow-calf producer to make some money, and these things go in cycles and everything. I just wanted everybody to realize that eventually somebody is going to be left holding the bag on some of those high dollar cattle. And I've said this before on these news updates, and I'm going to say it again. Folks, don't forget the lessons of 2014 and 2015. Boy, it was good times. We're here to stay in 2014. High price cattle, interest was cheap, et cetera, and so forth. And then the second half of 2015 rolled around, and the bottom absolutely fell out of it. A lot of folks bought some high dollar trucks, tractors, equipment, everything under the sun. And then the bottom fell out. People thought that there was never going to be another poor day in the cattle business again. And there were plenty of poor days between then and now. So just don't forget those lessons, folks. whenever you're making these plans, yeah, we enjoy the profits while they're here, but we know that the cattle industry is cyclical and that they won't be here forever, folks. That being said, a couple of events real quick. Beef and Forage Field Day in the Northwest region is going to be held at the Red River Research Station on April the 25th. We had a really good planning meeting a couple of weeks back on that. Got some exciting things to talk to you all about. So really a landmark event we have in our region each year, and look forward to putting it on every year. AI class at the Hill Farm, folks. We don't really have very many spots, if any. Ashley, I see you smiling, and it's not just from me stammering. I didn't really know how to address that. Folks, if you're interested in an AI class, get in touch with one of us. We'll get you on a list, and we'll do our best to get you in an appropriate time period. And the final thing that I'm going to close out with, Brittany alluded to the National Cattle Inventory released by the USDA. Folks, we're at the lowest number of all cattle and calves since 1951. That's pretty profound, folks. Think about the changes in agriculture, the changes in American society since then. You know, the only one of us that was in the cattle business then was Vince, I think. But anyway, I'm making a joke about him. I don't know if he picked up. Anyway, Ashley, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thanks for turning it over while I'm laughing. It did take you a second there, Vince. I'm going to go back to what Brittany had started us out with. She mentioned the State Livestock Show, and I have the pleasure of working with her on the Goat Premier Exhibitor, with Hannah Duvall on the Sheep Premier Exhibitor, and then Tyler Breaux, and I put together the Cattle Premier Exhibitor contest. And I'm always pleasantly surprised by how well these exhibitors do, how well they advocate for our industry, and how well they know not only their projects, but the livestock industry as a whole within Louisiana and within the U.S. So I want to give all of our Premier Exhibitor contestants a shout out, because those are not easy exams by any means, and they always do really well on those. As Brittany mentioned, the show went really well. The numbers were up, at least on the beef cattle side. I know that they were. Barns were kind of tight, and it's nice to see that. It's nice to know that we have more youth participating in those particular programs. Going back to our events, so I do have the Master Cattleman program linked. Lee, if you'll nod for me, the one that you and Josh have in DeSoto Parish is closed. Registration for that is closed. Is that correct?
Well, technically the deadline has passed. The class has made, folks, but we're still accepting a few more folks. We got room for a couple more. So if you're interested, contact me, contact Joshua, Sally in the DeSoto office, or Ashley can point you in the right direction.
Thank you. As Brittany mentioned, her registration is up and is open, so you can find that on our website, which is linked. Tripp, do you want to comment on your Master Cattleman class?
Yeah, we're still taking applications through the February the 26th. The class is not yet made, so we need a few people to come on and sign up. And it's going to be in Oak Grove. It's an area full of producers that have done it, and also a lot of them that haven't. So I highly encourage you to go on and sign up. It's going to be a great time.
Thank you.
But we do need a few more people to go on and sign up for us, though.
Thank you, sir. When is your registration closing? When do you need to know by?
Need to know by February 26th. That's the deadline, and I'm going to stick to that pretty good.
Okay. Thank you. Brittany, going to your breeding soundness exam that's coming up. It's this Thursday. All of our dates are blurring together after being in Gonzales for a week. Are y'all still accepting bulls for the breeding soundness exam this week?
Yes, we are. We have some availability that morning, so we're gonna give people till by hopefully tomorrow, maybe Wednesday morning at the latest, to see if we can get those last few spots filled. But yes, we do still have some availability. We're going to try to get them to announce that tomorrow at Dominique's in Opelousas, and hopefully we'll get some more signed up from that.
Thank you. So I do have Brittany's number, Lanie's number, Mr. Mike Dominique's number, as well as their forms site linked there, so you can contact any of them to get signed up. Related to that, Bradley Pousson and Jimmy Meaux have a breeding soundness exam day that we've been mentioning that is going to be on March 2nd. I think that's 2 Saturdays from now. I have both of their numbers listed here as well. So give them a call if you're interested. That one, it will be in the Lake Charles area. The Acadiana Spring Beef and Forage Field Day, we keep mentioning it, but again, mark your calendars for that. That is going to be on Saturday, March 16th at the Iberia Research Station in Jeanerette. We've got a full program set for that. Randi Toups has a BQA certification scheduled for April 10th. Her email is listed here. And then Lee did mention our AI school, and yes, I could tell he didn't know the best way to word it. So I'll just be blunt with y'all. We have a very extensive wait list on that, as in double our capacity. And so, as he mentioned, we want to try to make that work for everybody. We want to be able to get you into those classes as soon as we possibly can. So if you're interested in it and realize that you might not be able to get into it this spring, there is the class at the Dean Lee Research Station in Alexandria in October. We haven't set those dates yet, but it's the exact same class, y'all. We have the one in the spring up here in the Hill Farm, and then the one in the fall at Dean Lee. Same class, same program. So we can let y'all know when that one happens. But as he said, and I said it, and I think we say it every single news update, if you're interested in that or any of our programs, we do have contact lists, wait lists, or interest lists for those. So please let us know. And the last one, again, that Lee mentioned will be the Northwest Beef and Forage Field Day on Thursday, April 25th. So with that, I think everybody touched on everything that we needed to today. I don't really have anything else to add. So we will see y'all again in just a couple of weeks.